Yes, it's Sunday, but we are here once again. It's a Sunday special. Well, we did say yesterday that there were multiple leagues coming back, and yeah, Major League Baseball is also back.
Who
Which,
knew that we would finally get baseball back after we thought it was going to be the first sport to return? And now it's kind of returned. Is that the way you kind of want to put it at this point?
It's almost like a prison league. But you know what? I'm eating my words. You know what? I'm the one who was shouting from the rooftops. There's not going to be a season. There's not going to be a season. There's not going to be a season. And then Rob Manfred causes me to literally eat my words. Now, whether
well,
that's going to be a season worth watching is, of course, another matter entirely.
well, let's be fair here, and let's start at the beginning because Nick Morgasen and I talked about this on a live stream on I think it was Monday. That you know the players had rejected the offer from the league for the 60 games.
They,
And
they actually they rejected the number for 75, and then they had to go down to a forced season.
I was like, well, Manfred implemented. We knew Rob Manfred was going to implement a 54 to 60 game season. Now I was surprised he did 60. I think he was going to go 54, if not even less than 54. And then once that happened, we were saying that the players were going to file a grievance. And I think most MLB insiders had expected that the players were going to file a grievance. So I'm curious as to what happened there. If maybe
Every
they just,
MLB guy we spoke to figured that it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to happen.
Right, and if you go back and you check our archives and our interviews that we did on Bench Talk, you could see Robert Murray and Jesse Rogers both thought we should play at least 80 games. That was kind of the goal here, and if we don't have 80 games, it's kind of a wasted season. And to be honest, I think we still agree that this is kind of a wasted season, right?
It's a truncated season. It's a vestigial season, if you will.
A truncated season is half a season. This is more than a
This
truncated.
is a vestigial season, I just said. But you know what? I guess they consider that some baseball is better than full baseball.
yeah,
Now, of course, the same logistical problems that happened that could prop up with the NBA are, of course, going to rear their ugly heads here because, again, the same rules still apply because we're still in the teeth of the outbreak.
all
So
right, well, let's run through some of the details here because there are a lot of details that we got to go through. So, first of all, there's going to be Spring Training 2.0 that'll start on July 3rd. Players must report on July 1st. Now, up to 60 players per team will be allowed at the spring training camps. There will be no official spring training schedule. Instead, each team is going to be allowed to schedule up to 3 exhibition games of sorts. Now, will these be televised or not? I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards no because they're preparing for the actual start of baseball, which will start on July 23rd, with 2 national television games. One of which we actually just learned yesterday is going to be the Yankees and Garrett Cole's debut as a Yankee taking on the defending World Series champion Washington Nationals, who will be it'll be Max Scherzer who's going to be throwing on the mound for them.
It's a great matchup. It's a weird matchup.
yeah, it's a weird matchup, but it's a great matchup nonetheless.
There will be one other nationally televised game on that day. Everybody else will start their season on July 24th, and the games will run through September the 27th.
So we're talking about 2 months, roughly.
About 60 games in about 66 days.
That is actually the phrase that the likes of Rosenthal and Drellick of The Athletic have been using, 60 and 66.
Right. So we're talking about, like Nick said, a truncated season, or I don't know if you want to call it like a third of a season. Or
I
really,
said a vestigial season.
I know, but I'm just saying that to me, this doesn't feel like a real season. And people, all the older traditional MLB reporters like Tim Kirchin for ESPN have said, you can't put an asterisk on this season. Unfortunately, yes, I'm putting an asterisk on this season.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Do you put an asterisk on the Los Angeles Dodgers and their 1981 championship?
It's a good question.
Because it was a strike-shortened season.
Correct.
Not the 94, too.
Well, 94, the difference is 94, there was no champion.
Yeah, they didn't play, so that season's kind of out. Do you know how many games they played in 1981?
1981, I don't know, but basically the 1981 season, the 1981 playoffs. For those of you who weren't around, well, we weren't exactly around, but
We weren't either.
okay, but for baseball history, those who don't know baseball history, it pretty much set the precedent for what we know today as the division series, because you had two, because we had the two divisions, I think, at that time, the East and the West, but basically,
You would basically go to a championship series, and then you would go to the World Series.
1981 season, the player strike lasted June 12th to July 31st. Let's see here. How many Major League Baseball final standings? So the Milwaukee Brewers were 62 and 47. So that was a total of 109 games. 62, 109. Yankees were 59 and 48. So that's about somewhere in the high 100. So 107 to 109.
So the way to look at this is, we got baseball back. That's great. That's fine. We're going to have sports to watch again. You could say that, like we talked about yesterday. We talked about how the NBA is finally coming back, and we're going to have the last 8 games of the season. We're going to have the playoffs. But in between each round, you're going to have to quarantine everybody that's around you. Are you going to have to do that for Major League Baseball as well? You're going to have to quarantine everybody between the different rounds?
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that I was saying yesterday, where again, what if one player gets sick? You're building another 10-story Jenga tower, and all it takes is one piece being removed to send the whole thing toppling to the earth.
And now we have the issues of teams who are playing in states that have rising cases, that have spikes, like the Tampa Bay Rays, the Miami Marlins, the Texas Rangers, the Houston Astros,
the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, the Athletics.
And
the Angels, at least. The Angels.
Going back, by the way, to what I was saying about 81, basically they had the East and the West, and they divided the season into halves. So the East first half winner played the East second half winner. So, like I said, you had what we now know today is the division series.
Well, we'll get to the schedule. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up about the East and the West, because we'll get to that. But before we get there, you were still going through some of the season stuff. So we have Spring Training 2.0 there. It's supposed to start on July 3rd, report by July 1st. I think they're all supposed to get COVID tests as soon as they walk into their spring training facilities, which is now in their own towns. Like you said, Florida and Arizona are going to be a different issue, a different animal they're going to have to figure out. But
the Mets and Yankees will be up here as far as local.
Yes. Everybody will be playing in their home city for spring training.
Which you're going to run into weather-related issues also because of the weather in the different cities. But so season starts on July 23rd. The 2 national games we mentioned, one of them Yankees Nationals, which is probably, for ratings sake, it's probably going to do really well if I had to take a guess. And then July 24th for everyone else. Games, you said September 27th. Universal DH. Now, what do we think about the Universal DH? That's very up.
If it meant, this is what I say about the season, and I can correlate to being a DH. Maybe it's not the season that we want. Maybe it's not as long as we want, but it gets us baseball back on TV. And if this Universal DH for this one season is going to let us have baseball back on TV, National League owners, please suck it up.
But it is a test case for bringing it in.
It is a test case, and we will see what it's like. But at the very least, it's not even a full season, not even half the season. So suck it up and let us have baseball.
Right, and I want to bring this next point up because, Tom, you and I were having a good laugh about this. So, well, one is the 10-day normal IL is now there's going to be a special COVID IL. That's not the laughable part. That kind of makes sense.
Okay, by the way, before you get into what I know where you're going to, but the expanded playoffs and the $25 million pool that they were protecting with, they're gone now. So
that's ridiculous, by the way. The owners are acting like a bunch of cheap you-know-what.
Yeah. Although I will say, I guess it kind of is good in a way that not half of the league is making the playoffs.
Well,
yeah. I mean, well, it depends on which team you're a fan of. I mean, if you're a Royals fan, you're kind of SOL right now.
Yeah, Royals are nowhere to be found at this point. But
I mean, at this point, it's like, look, you got to with everything we've seen over the past couple of weeks, how the way the negotiations were essentially a war of attrition. You have to assume that at least some of it is this season's going to be played from behind gritted teeth. They're not happy about this. The players are not happy about this.
I'd say after all the back and forth trading in public, how each side was trying to make each other look bad through the media and stuff, I guess it's kind of good that we at least get a season out of it, because as much of a risk as it is to not, like how much of a risk it is to play baseball, if they didn't, oh man, they would be taking such a popularity hit.
All right, so let's move on to the one that makes me laugh, and Tom, I think, agrees with me. We talked about this. Go check out our last episode on the breaking news of the season coming back. It was actually a really good video that Tom and I did. So extra innings will feature a runner starting on second base for the regular season only, and I think that goes away once the postseason
starts. Yes, it's the minor league extra inning rule.
But Tom, we're Little League. We're Little League. Because now they're talking about adding possible switch-ins after you've already been taken out of the game.
Yeah, they're talking about possible resubstitutions, and even to a less degree, but to some degree, ties.
So the only thing we're missing is the aluminum bats and a sponsorship by Pizza Hut, right?
Yes.
But wait a minute. So if there's ties in effect, does that affect the strategy of how you close a game now?
It might.
Yeah, it will. I mean, it's not out of the realm of the possibility to assume that it might be.
I'd say if you're in a safer spot in the standings, like if you're a leading first place team, you would rather maybe to play for the tie or whatever.
Wait a minute. Is this going to be hockey now with the records where you're going to see like 25, 12, and 3?
Oh, the difference is in hockey.
It's gonna be like a hockey. It's gonna be like it's gonna be like a hockey stand. The Metropolitan Division.
You know what? I think that to break the ties, we should have a home run derby at the end of the game.
Oh,
it's like who's playing, the Mets or the Calgary Flames?
I think we should have a home run derby at the end of the game. That's how we should determine who wins the game.
Or maybe
wait. They do that. They do that for ties in the Oh my God, what's it called? The celebrity softball game or in the All-Star break.
Exactly.
And if you want to make things really interesting, 3 words: steel cage match.
Well, okay, that makes sense, I guess. But right, so let's move on. So players must be added to the rosters by September 15th to be postseason eligible. We kind of knew that was going to happen. Oh, you left out one thing on this list. There is going to be an MLB trade deadline. There is going to be an MLB trade deadline.
August 31st.
So the season starts on July 24th. You have 1 month
to make trades.
To trade somebody.
So you know how the old adage is essentially the season's a marathon, not a sprint?
Not anymore. This season
is now a sprint. Get on your sprinting shoes, folks, because we're about to kick this thing into overdrive, damn it.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Vince McMahon there.
All right, let's kick this into overdrive. So the season will start with 30-man rosters. After 2 weeks, it'll be reduced to 28. Another 2 weeks, and it will go to the normal. Well, the new normal was going to be the 26 starting this season, not 25. There will be taxi squads instead of the minor leagues. I assume this means the minor league baseball season is kaput.
It's over. I mean, and those guys, and this is the NFL's version of a practice squad. I think that's the best way to describe it. And they're getting $400 stipends, which is what the minor leaguers were getting. So they're taking the minor leaguers.
Okay, well, it's interesting you brought up the stipends because now there was a rumor that has now been confirmed that there will be 2 teams of unsigned players in Nashville that will serve as an emergency pool in case, injuries or they need players to add to their practice squad. These players in Nashville will make $400 a week, and MLB would pay Nashville a fee to sign these guys. And these guys do not have to be minor leaguers in Nashville. In other words, a guy like Yasiel Puig, who is still a free agent to this day, could be in that Nashville squad.
So you're telling me like all the quadruple A players might end up there?
Yes.
So good enough for triple A, not exactly good enough for me.
Well, actually, no. Under normal circumstances, wouldn't the quadruple A players be in the practice squads?
I'm just saying, like,
if there was such a formal thing as a practice squad.
Okay, but yes. Anybody who has major league experience can be on the practice squad or in the Nashville squads, as far as I know.
Right. So quickly, I'll go through this. Teams are going to play 40 games in their division. That's AL and NL. 20 games interleague with their geographical counterpart. So East, East, West, West, Central, Central, so on.
So for example, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they will play the Giants 10 times, they will play the Padres 10 times, they will play the Diamondbacks 10 times, and the Rockies 10 times. And then the remaining 20 games will be divided among the 5 teams in the AL West. So the Angels, the Astros, the A's,
Mariners.
and the Rangers.
Yeah. So essentially, they found a way to do it. And also, I think it's ironic that the Dodgers and the Astros are going to be playing in the regular season.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there.
The Yankees are gonna play the Mets 6 times, right?
Yes, it's because they were originally going to do 4 times because I think the AL East was supposed to play the NL Central this season, but of course now that's going to be switched. I assume maybe next season to make up for it, they'll do the normal. They'll go back to the NL Central.
I kind of like that they play 6 games against one another. I didn't like this whole 4 game.
I like the 6 games. I understand why they do the 4 games because it's technically not the NL East's year, but they still want the Subway Series. But as I say, I guess that's the consequence of having interleague play, throughout the whole season instead of certain special weekends like when we were little.
I think they kind of destroyed interleague, but that's a whole conversation for another day.
I'd say I kind of miss those days.
Well, I liked it when the end of May to the beginning of June came. We knew.
Well, that's what I said, the special weekends.
Right. And you say, oh, here's interleague. This is when you get to see all the guys you don't get to see because they're on the other side of the country. All right, let's continue on.
Okay, so yes, so now we did talk about the Florida and Arizona having spikes, Texas having spikes.
We talked about this yesterday. So Florida is spiking with 9,000 plus cases a day.
Well,
and they're dealing with this with the NBA. Now they had to move their spring training sites out of Florida, out of Arizona, into their own stadiums.
Well, the Phillies, Twins, Blue Jays, and Giants have had at least one person each. And actually, for the Phillies and Twins, it's multiple people that have tested positive for COVID-19. And MLB will have the right to relocate teams during the regular season to neutral sites for health and safety reasons.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. It's going to happen to at least one team, and it may happen to the Blue Jays if the Canadian government doesn't allow them to play their home games.
They're going to have to play in Buffalo probably because that's the closest place to where they are.
I'd say, but there's a AAA team that plays. It's AAA or AA. The Bison, yeah, who play in Buffalo.
AAA, I think. But I don't know. I don't think the Canadian government's going to let them play in Toronto. That's just a hunch I have.
I mean, it really depends on what Canada, the Canadian government believes can keep their own people safe, because God knows they don't want to go through the same kind of COVID outbreak that we're getting down here. We are basically Canada's basically a loft apartment over some kind of fist fight. But at this point, folks, like I said yesterday, the exact same hurdles that are facing the NBA are facing MLB. I mean, in terms of what are you going to do if one person gets sick and then everybody gets it? You think you're going to be able to hermetically seal this league? And it's not going to work. Or it's not going to work to the extent that you want it to.
Nick, quickly, just so we can get to the other points. So players will be prohibited from arriving more than 5 hours before the game and staying longer than 90 minutes. We knew that. Reporters must leave ballpark within 1 hour of conclusion of post-game interviews. Players are permitted to ride in cars as long as they are in compliance with minimum standards for rideshare by the CDC. And according to Ken Rosenthal, charter for travel day for international players. So everything seems like it's intact, but there's gonna be a lot of craziness.
Okay, there seems to be a plan in place, which I give credit for, because like we were saying yesterday, the NBA doesn't seem to have a plan. It's just we'll deal with it when it happens and whatnot. MLB at least has a plan, but it's going to be tested.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with the Major League Baseball season. We're working on some MLB guests as well. But
yeah. One last point I want to make, because we were bringing up the minor leagues. According to Jason Stark, MLB is still debating whether to sign teams to minor league contracts. Those players wouldn't count against the 40-man big league roster, but those could count against the 60 player pools, which could see us having some major opt-outs.
Well, we'll see what happens with the minor league system, because right now they're just pools. They're not minor league systems really at this point.
I'd say the minor leagues still have to be worked on, but like I said, there's a lot of stuff in place. There is a plan for MLB. It may not be the most perfect plan. It's not the kind of season that we wanted or how long we wanted. These policies that MLB has in place will be tested, but I will say it's going to be good to see have baseball again.
Yeah, follow the show at ETP Sports on Twitter, at Empty the Bench on Facebook. Follow all of us on Twitter as well. We're posting all of this as well, so just stay with us, and we're working on some MLB guests as well.
For Fodera Nick Morgasen, I'm Tom Albano, and we'll see you next time, guys. Good night.